Book of Heaven, Volume 11. 5 April to 25 September 1914. Page 78 to 83. April 5, 1914. All the work of one who lives in the divine will becomes light from his light. Continuing in my usual state, my adorable Jesus made himself seen inside an immensity of light, while I was swimming inside this light, feeling it flowing in my ears, in my eyes, in my mouth, in everything. Jesus told me, "My daughter, if the soul who does my will works, her work becomes light. If she speaks, thinks, desires, walks, etc., her words, thoughts, desires and steps all turn into light, but light drawn from my Son. My will attracts the soul who does my volition with so much force that it makes her spin continuously around this light, and as she spins, she takes more light which keeps her captured within me." April 10, 1914. Jesus crowned with thorns. Jesus has his center and his throne on earth in the soul who does his divine will. How love operates and how the divine will operates. This morning my always adorable Jesus came as crucified and shared with me his pains. He pulled me toward himself so much, into the sea of his passion, that I could almost follow him step by step. Who can say all that I could understand? There are so many things that I don't know where to start. I'm just going to say that in seeing the crown of thorns being torn off, the thorns prevented the blood from gushing out. As they tore the crown off, that blood gushed forth from those little holes, flowing on his face in large rivulets, on his hair, and then flowing down on all the person of Jesus. And Jesus, "Daughter, these thorns which prick my head will prick the pride, the haughtiness and the most hidden wounds of man, to let the pus which they contain come out. The thorns soaked in my blood will heal him, returning to him the crown which sin had removed." Then, Jesus made me go to other steps of the Passion, and I felt my heart being transfixed in seeing him suffering so much. And he, almost as to relieve me, continued to speak about his holy volition. "My daughter, my center on earth is the soul who does my will. See, the sun spreads its light everywhere on earth, though maintaining its own center. In heaven I am the life of each blessed, but I still keep my center and my throne. In the same way, I am everywhere on earth, but my center, the place in which I raise my throne in order to reign, my charisms, my satisfactions, my triumphs, my own palpitating heart, in which I find the whole of myself as if in my own center, is in the soul who does my most holy will. This soul is so much identified with me that she becomes inseparable from me, and all my wisdom and power cannot find the means to detach me from her in the slightest." Then he added, "Love has its anxieties, desires, ardors and restlessness. My will is, instead, perpetual rest. Do you know why? Because love contains the beginning, the means and the end of any work. Anxiety and restlessness arise in order to accomplish it, and much of love and imperfection mixes with them. But if my will and love are not united together at every step, poor love, how dishonored it remains, even in the greatest and holiest works. On the other hand, my will operates in a simple act, giving to the soul the full attitude in order to accomplish the work in the manner of my will, and while my will operates, the soul rests. Therefore, since it is not the soul that operates, but my will within her, there is no anxiety or restlessness, and she remains free from any imperfection." May 18, 1914. Peaceful souls are the staffs of God. As I was feeling oppressed, I was almost about to be surprised by the poisonous waves of disturbance. My lovable Jesus, my faithful sentry, immediately ran to prevent disturbance from entering into me, and scolding me, told me, "Daughter, what are you doing? The love and the interest I have to maintain the soul at peace are such and so great that I am forced to make miracles in order to keep the soul at peace. And those who disturb these souls would want to confront me and prevent this miracle of mine, all of love. So, I recommend to you, be balanced in everything. My being is in full balance in everything, and yet I do see and feel evils, and bitternesses I do not lack. Nevertheless, I never become unbalanced. My peace is perennial, my thoughts are peaceful, My words are honeyed with peace. The beating of my heart is never tumultuous, even in the midst of immense joys or interminable bitternesses. The very operating of my hands in the act of scourging flows over the earth as enveloped in waves of peace. So, if you do not maintain yourself at peace, since I am in your heart I feel dishonored, and my way and yours are no longer in accord, I would feel hindered in you from carrying out my ways in you, and therefore you would render me unhappy. Only peaceful souls are my staffs on which I lean, and when the many iniquities snatch scourges from my hands, by leaning on these staffs I always do less than what I should do. Ah! If, may it never be, I lacked these staffs, in lacking my supports I would send everything to ruin. June 29, 1914. In the divine will creatures take part in the interior, ad intra, and eternal works of God according to their little capacity and to their love. After some people with authority read what is written on March 17, that is, whoever does the will of God takes part in the actions, ad intra, of the divine persons etc., they said that it wasn't like that, and that the creature does not enter into this. I remained concerned though calm and convinced that Jesus would have made the truth known. Then, being in my usual state, I saw before my mind an interminable sea, and many objects inside this sea. Some of them were small, others were bigger. Some floated on the surface of the sea, remaining only wet. Others went down to the bottom, remaining soaked with water inside and out. Some others sank down so much as to be lost inside the sea. Now, while I was seeing this, my always adorable Jesus came and told me, "My beloved daughter, did you see? The sea symbolizes my immensity and the objects, with different sizes, the souls who live in my will. The different ways to be, some on the surface, some down, some lost within me, vary according to how they live in my will, some in an imperfect way, some in a more perfect way. Others reach the extent of being completely dissolved in my volition. Now, my daughter, my ad intra, about which I spoke to you is exactly this. Sometimes I keep you together with me, with my humanity, and you take part in the pains, works and joys of my humanity. Some other times, pulling you inside of me, I dissolve you inside my divinity. How many times did I not make you swim in me, keeping you so much within me that you could not see anything other than me, inside and outside of you? Now, as I kept you within me, you took part in the enjoyments, in the love and in all the rest, always according to your little capacity. So, although our works, ad intra, are eternal, the creatures can still enjoy the effects of those works in their lives, according to their love. Now, what is the wonder if I said that when the will of the soul is one with mine, and as I place her inside of me, rendering her inseparable from me, always as long as she doesn't move from my will, she takes part in the works, ad intra. Furthermore, from the way it has been explained, if they wanted to know the truth, they could have known very well the meaning of my ad intra, because the truth is light to the mind, and with light things can be seen as they are. But if they don't want to know the truth, the mind remains blinded and things cannot be seen as they are. So they raise doubts and difficulties, remaining more blind than before. Moreover, my being is always in one act. It has no beginning and no end. I am old and new. Our works, ad intra, were, are and will always be in action. Therefore, through the intimate union with our will, the soul is already within us. She admires, contemplates, loves and enjoys. She takes part in our love, in our delights and in everything else. So, why would it be inappropriate for me to say that the soul who does my will takes part in the actions, ad intra? While Jesus was saying this, a simile came to my mind. A man marries a woman. The two have children, and they are so rich, virtuous and good as to delight whoever could live with them. Now, someone, touched by the goodness of this couple, wants to live together with them. Doesn't this person come to take part in their riches and in their happiness? Won't he feel their virtues being infused into himself, as he lives together with them? If this can be done humanly, how much more with our adorable Jesus? August 1914. Fusing oneself in Jesus in order to relieve him from his pain for the sins of creatures. As I was in my usual state, my always adorable Jesus came, in a different way from the usual one which he has had with me during this period of my life. That is to say, if he comes at all, it is just for a little while, flashing by, and with almost total cessation of the sufferings which he used to communicate to me when he came. Only his holy volition is what compensates for everything. So, this morning he came and stayed for several hours, but in a state that would make stones cry. He had pain everywhere, and he wanted to be soothed in each part of his most holy humanity. It seemed that, had he not received relief, he would have reduced the world to a heap of rubble. It seemed that he didn't want to go, in order not to see the slaughters and the grave sights of the world, which almost forced him to do even worse things. I squeezed him to myself and, wanting to relieve him, I fused myself in his intelligence to be able to place myself in all the intellects of creatures and offer a good thought for each evil thought, in order to repair and relieve all the offended thoughts of Jesus. In the same way, I fused myself in his desires to be present in all the evil desires of creatures, in order to place my good desire and soothe the offended desires of Jesus, and so on with all the rest. Then, after I relieved him part by part, he left, as if he felt cheered up. September 25, 1914. The prayer done with Jesus and with his will is extended to all. I was offering my poor prayers to blessed Jesus, and I was thinking to myself to whom it would be better for blessed Jesus to apply them. Kindly, he told me, "My daughter, the prayers done with me and with my will can be given to all, without excluding anybody. All receive their part and their effects, as if those prayers had been offered for one single person. However, they operate according to the dispositions of the creatures. I give communion or my passion to all and to each one, but the effects are produced according to their dispositions, and if 10 people receive it, the fruit is not inferior to the case in which only 5 had received it. Such is the prayer done together with me and with my will.